Hey, everybody. Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Anime, the show that is a forbidden jutsu. I am one of your hosts, Zach Dykes. I am joined by the D-Rake Hunter himself, Derek Daniel. See what I did there? Derek Daniel,
Yeah,
D-Rake,
yeah. That wasn't a shot at my skill level or anything, but we'll go with that. Whatever you have to tell yourself, Zach.
Well, it's true. It is your skill level as well. Guys, welcome to the stream. We're excited because this is the first Eat Sleep anime of the year.
Been waiting 3
Technically,
months to hear that bomb intro.
I know, dude. I'm super excited about it because we've been eating good on the anime side of things. And this is the first time the show is completely free. It's not behind the Patreon paywall or anything. So we're doing it live. We're doing it for everybody. So if you do want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/nerdcave and pick a tier that fits best for you. Any help goes a long way. And if you say, Zach, I don't have the money, that's totally okay as well. You can get the free tier and support us that way. It's all good. And watching and liking and subscribing is very, very important as well. So, Derek, I got to ask you, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. And I'll say, got off of work not that long ago. So, like chilling. Was looking forward to coming on and doing this again with you. So, first one of the year. So, 3 months in. So, other than that, I'm good, man. Been watching some anime as usual. That's the whole point of the show.
What? That's the point of the show?
Right.
Well, let's jump into the first section. Amy saying, hey.
What up?
Welcome. Let's jump into the first section. What you been watching, Derek?
I've been watching several things. I watched Chainsaw Man, watched Free Run, which we'll get into here in a minute. Watched what else have I been watching? I've been watching different things. Oh, watched like Noragami, watched Blood Blockade Battlefront. Been watching a plethora of different things. My latest venture though is Mob Psycho, which I know you are high on. You watched it twice now, once by yourself and then once with Amy. So I'm almost done with season 2. I have 3 episodes left, and it is a good show. So like I'll say, it's definitely that blend of teenage middle school angst with comedy mixed with a good amount of action. So it really brought something different to the table, and like this arc that I'm in toward the end of season 2 is really good. Like I can't wait to see how the season wraps up and then watch season 3. And the only thing with season 1, the only thing I have an issue with is like, now granted I knew they showed it early, is like him going 100%, right? Like when he showing what happens when he goes 100%, like pretty much goes Super Saiyan essentially, wrecks people.
Yeah,
I know they wanted to show that, but then I feel like they spammed it too much. Like I feel like they should have it didn't feel like special because they have how much they showed it off. Now I will say the Teru fight where he goes where he goes basically Ultra Instinct. I'm like, okay, that's amazing. But then like season 2, they kind of dumbed it down and it's like, all right, he doesn't go 100% that often. So they're making it matter more.
Yeah, the first season, I feel like it was just like, okay, we've got to show his powers pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That way it establishes like what he's able to do. Because a lot of anime, I feel like waits too long to like actually show what the show is about. And Mob does a pretty good job of like first episode, he's exercising spirits and all of that for Master Reagan and all of this, and like showing that dynamic super, super early. But I'm curious to your thoughts on the relationships, the dynamics that he has with different people. Like, what are your thoughts on Mob's like relationships?
I think he has almost like a Goku-esque mentality where he wants to he wants to see the good in everybody, despite because there's an arc in season 2 where him and Reagan split up because they have a difference of opinions. Like Reagan gets a little full of himself, and like Reagan does actually good for himself, but Mob like is wanting to live more of a life, and they both finally get it. And after the whole press conference bit, like Reagan asked him, and I like did Mob know he's a fraud? And he's like, I know, and like before he says fraud, he says, I've always known that you're a good person. And it's like, okay, like either he knows and he just doesn't want to address it or make Reagan feel any worse, or he is oblivious to it. So I don't know which one it is yet. I don't know if that'll get answered at the end of season 2 or in season 3. Regardless,
Mm,
like his relationship, like, and I mean, like how he makes fast friends, like how like how he's gained the respect for the Body Improvement Club. How like even his crush that thought he said he was weird when they were a younger age, kind of still is now like,
Subome.
yeah, yeah. Subome is like, huh. I respect you a little bit now. Like, they're starting to show that she actually respects him and what
Yeah.
he. I think the thing that they did interesting was they break this norm. Like, in typical shonen anime, where there's like a sibling involved or whatnot, there's always that, oh, they get all the fame and glory. What about me? Like
Yeah.
I'm more of the scholar, but I have no talent. So it's like, what about me? And they address that early on in season 1
Mm-hmm.
because his brother's like, he's like, oh, he's a awesome psychic. He's got amazing powers. Like, why can't I have? And like, it all stems from like Mob not knowing any better, just thinking he's the norm, is like, of
Yeah.
course you're my younger brother, you're gonna get powers. And Ritsu trying over and over again and failing and not being able to do it. And then finally he goes to this Esper organization that tries to
Mm-hmm.
bring out latent things. And then all it took was Dimple possessing him to unlock his full latent abilities. And now he's like, I wouldn't say he's on par with Mob, but he's up there in terms of power. And now, like, that whole dynamic, like, they never really came to blows, but he just wanted to be like Mob. So and the fact when that came to light at the end of season 1, I was like, okay, I liked the fact that they got this out of the way. That way it's not like a thrown together story thread later down the road.
I was actually kind of surprised to see it happen at all, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think that it was really going to be in the anime, and then because he was just so friendly with Mob and everything,
Right.
and then that twist when he's like in his bedroom trying to bend a spoon and everything.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. Just wasn't expecting it at all. So, but Dimple is a really cool character as well.
He is. He almost is like I wouldn't. They're different characters, and obviously they have different goals, but they're almost kind of like he's almost kind of like Turbo Granny.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I feel like they're serving slightly different purpose. And you finished season 2, correct?
No, I have 3 episodes left.
Okay, cool. So yeah, season 2 has some interesting stuff.
I do know that it was, I think, was it end of season 1 or beginning of season 2 where Mob lets Dimple possess him. I do think that will play out down the road because it's almost like when you let like in the old lore of like inviting vampires in, like now they can just come and go whenever they want to, and there's no barrier.
I'm not going to give anything away. I'm excited to see what you think about it though. Post the end of season 2 and then season 3, I think does a fantastic job of exploring some things that I feel like other shows would go longer just to be able to make money or whatever.
Yeah.
But the dude that created it is the same dude that did One Punch Man. So like being able to like, oh, I've had 2 successful mangas that have been turned into shows and have done pretty well is kind of a rarity. Like Toriyama, I feel like is the only one that I can like point like out like right away that's had both, and be fairly successful and everything. But I love Mob Psycho. I'm glad that you're finally watching it. For me, I've been, of course, watching Solo Leveling, or season 2 has been fantastic. Just the way seeing everything come to life from the manhwa to the screen and everything has been great, and it's been absolutely crushing with like breaking records on Crunchyroll. Like each and every like big episode is like just amazing.
I was watching or not watching. I was scrolling and I found like, there's stuff that comes on my FYP about anime news for the week or whatever.
Hmm.
And one of the things that come across when I was looking was because of Solo Leveling success, 10 more manhwa have been greenlit to get anime adaptations. I'm like, that is crazy. Like, this is going to be a whole new trend, like, it's going forward. Like, there's always, like, there's been the long form, like, the 300 episodes, like
Hmm.
500 if you're Naruto, 1,000 if you're One Piece. There's been that long trend, but then there's been like anime that, like Demon Slayer is like a short, for what it is. It's a short run,
Yeah.
but it tells an impactful story. It gets the point across. My Hero went a little bit longer, but still told a fantastic story in a shorter form, or in a short for what a typical shonen anime used to run back in the day. And
Hmm.
now we have Solo, and like, oh, and that's the other things, like more and more different types are getting, like isekai were for the longest time wasn't a big thing. It used to be big, heavy on action, big on like big personalities. Now there's isekai. I know we have our differences on reincarnated as a slime, but that catapulted more isekai. You can kind of make a case that it's oversaturated with isekai anime now,
Yeah.
but because of the success of slime, it helped further along the isekai genre. And now this is like the manhwa is like Solo Leveling is helping a
Hmm.
new genre into the fold. And now, because I forget, there's other manhwa. There was another manhwa that was greenlit for an anime adaptation that people like. It's not on the same tier of Solo Leveling, but it's close to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if it even can be close to Solo Leveling, it'll be enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm excited and I'm glad to see that because of the success of Solo Leveling that others are getting a chance to come to life and get
Hmm.
that recognition because when you think about it, like there's a ton of manga and everything, and then like the we're going to talk about future of anime in this episode, so I'm really
Hmm.
excited about that, and I think that is something to bring into that conversation in a little bit. I do want to hit comments real quick over on the horizontal stream. If you want to get the full experience, you need to go over there. Amy says, been watching Freerun with the Fable Club, and Sakamoto days, and going to get back into Full Alchemist Brotherhood soon. Yeah,
Hmm.
we've been watching Sakamoto. We're caught up now, and it's just a really good, like, it's a mix of like Spy Family. It's definitely more violent. Like
Right.
there's like gore or whatever, but it's not like over it. It can be over the top, but it's not like body horror kind of stuff. Like people
Yeah.
aren't like
It doesn't do it for the shock value.
exactly. But the comedy and the action is just amazing in that show, and really, really liking it. And then we started Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood
I remember you
again, like,
telling me that. So,
and then we started like I started watching Freerun. And I was like, "Oh, do you want to watch this?" So Amy and I watched all the way through Freerun, which was really good. But I also watched Dragon Ball Daima. I
hmm
finished the series or
hmm
the show. I don't know if they're going to do any more in that or not.
I haven't seen anything official, but I've heard rumors of like they may be considering it, but not, it's very much like in early talks. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Like, I think it would add some different things. It definitely feels like it's changed some stuff.
Hmm.
I'm not going to spoil anything in it, but it does definitely feel more like Dragon Ball than Dragon Ball Z. It's a lot
Hmm.
more adventure-esque. The fight at the end, the big fight was pretty good. Like there
Hmm.
was a lot of action in that. So, but the season felt more like episodic than um I don't know. There was like smaller adventures throughout all
Yeah.
of it. So it felt different than what we've been getting, which I think is a good thing at the same time. Sometimes you got to slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
And then Attack on Titan, I watched all the way through it finally.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was great. We're going to talk more about that in the near future. We're going to be doing more stuff with that, but enjoyed that. And then I've been watching Blue Exorcist. I'm on season 3 so
Hmm.
far of that, and just been enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, but I'm not like super invested in it as
Right.
well.
Like it's a nice little fill in when you're wanting to take a break.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of
Yeah.
a palate cleanser and everything, but I am excited to see where it goes. Amy said, Dimple surprised me talking about Mob Psycho. I
Mhm.
thought he had changed, but at the first opportunity, took the chance to be his crazy self. So many good and wild things in that show, and so good.
The Blue Exorcist, since you're on the current season, what did you think of the twists with like without I guess it's newer, so I guess light spoilers. But what did you think of the twists with some of the characters?
Um, I'm wondering where that's going to go.
Yeah.
Um, Shura, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Um, and then what's going on with Yukio? I'm curious. I'm
Yeah.
very curious to see where we end up on that.
Did
Um,
you I thought that quiet kid in their class was
yeah, that
I
that
thought he
was
was where Shura was. I thought he would be what Shura ended up being. And when it's like, oh, kind of, but also he's serving someone else, and it's like he's basically like a not a double agent, but like has this double agenda. And I'm like, this is also cool.
yeah, I wasn't expecting that. And pink haired dude, like all the stuff that's going on there with him, like it's season two opened up a lot of different things, and
Correct.
like I feel like the world has opened up a lot more too.
Oh yeah, especially with the enemy that it gets introduced in
Yeah,
season 3. I'm like, okay, now we're expanding the world. It's not just the big bad that you're just dancing around and like
yeah.
dealing with his pets as you might say.
Hmm.
It's actually dealing with some, like basically his children. I'm like, okay, cool. This is cool.
Yeah, and so I'm excited to see where they go in season 3 because I'm a little bit into it. Like I'm dealing with like Shura's story right now,
Hmm.
like the thing with her and everything. I don't want to give anything away, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
So, but let's jump into our review of Freerun. Amy says, I loved Freerun. And
Hmm.
Derek, I want to hear your opinions. What did you think of Freerun Beyond the Journey's End?
So while again, I'm going to bring this term up for the mouth breathers that want just constant action. I'm like, take a seat back. You know what I mean? Like this does have the action and it does pick up toward the end, like the later path of the show, but it starts off so unique because it's like, all right, this cast of characters who her party that she's originally with has a stacked voice cast.
Mm-hmm.
Mallory Rodick, who is the voice of Freerun, did an amazing job, I feel like, in this show. Um, you think, all right, the journey's over, and it's like we conquered the Demon King. I'm like, okay, then what's the point of this? And then and then she starts over again because she's an elf. She lives pretty much for centuries, essentially, and even she views time as a whole different thing. Like even Eisen, the dwarf, said
Mm-hmm.
it's like a 10 years for you is like an hour for us. You know what I mean? And it's like that's a good way of putting it because that's why you see her and throughout the whole thing, even with her new party, like with her pupil and the hero that they pick up, Eisen's pupil, she just kind of doesn't like she has a purpose, but she wants to take it the slow way because she knows she wants to savor everything because she doesn't know if she'll ever be back here or when she'll be back again.
Mm-hmm.
So she wants to take in like the atmosphere, everything this journey has to offer before just going to the end objective. And when that happens, I'm like, okay, like how do we go from here? And I like how the point is after the death of Himmel, the hero, like that's pretty like AD, like how they use that as like a time loop.
Yeah.
Um, but her going back and just like reconnecting, like picking up like what we become like Fern, who becomes our pupil that was living with Heiter, that
Mm-hmm.
Heiter saved, from a tragic accident. honoring his wish, and then Aizen, picking up his pupil and making him like get confident in himself to be a hero that Aizen knows he can be. And just like the whole, and like involving Freeren's journey, like, learning about her, the people that she grew up with, like that trained her. Like, it
Yeah.
was just so different. And like the flashbacks that tie in with her party, like the journeys they went on, I think was so uniquely done, rather than just like do random breaks just to tell a story and just go right back. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
and it does have those, like, it does have those short little flashbacks, but it doesn't, depending on what's happening, it serves its purpose. It's either to send a
Hmm.
message or just to have a lesson learned. So I think it's so done. But then when it gets into the action is where I think it also does things differently, because you think, oh, she's, like, because we're wondering, it's like, all right, well, how powerful of a mage is Freerin? And then the first enemy she faces in Guillotine, like, we learn, it's like, oh, okay, like, because we think like we're worried, because it's like, all right, we see the mana pool around Guillotine, and then all of a sudden Freerin just unleashes, like, she's just been training to hold back, to like fool her enemies. And it's like, got you, because, and like, she's gloating the whole time, and I'm just like, are you sure about that? You sure about that? So, but then we get to the second arc of the show, which was the first class mage exam, and
Hmm.
we see a whole different cast of characters get involved. Like, pretty much that's like the Chunin exam in Naruto, where we're seeing these different squads of
Yeah.
people, like learning all these different personalities. Some you're like, I don't like you, I don't vibe with you at all, you psycho.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Ooble. Yeah.
oh my god. And but then, like, some cool people, like the Four Eyes, that can use cloning magic. And then when it gets revealed, it's like, oh, you never even left your whole, like, when they get to like the head of the mage is like, you don't spare me the theatrics, you haven't even left your hometown. I'm like, oh, okay, wow, that's,
Yeah.
you can make clones of clones, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe he just made a bunch of clones and just sends them off one at a time, I don't know. I do vibe with the old man as well. Like the
Daikin.
Yeah, Daikin. I
Aiken.
do.
Yeah.
I do vibe with him a lot. I think, he says that he's pragmatic. He's like, he sees the forest for the trees. He doesn't.
Hmm.
He even says, is like, look, if I'm outclassed, I'm not going to entertain this. Like, I'm out.
Yeah. Using his head instead of, just brute force, which I think makes a really good mage in this world and everything.
Yeah.
Um, dude, like the way that they crafted this story is superb. Like I think of like Attack on Titan, it's like you've got this like time thing and all of this, and it's an
Yeah.
amazing show. But Freerun does amazing storytelling,
Hmm.
but it's very personable.
Yes.
It's very like it
It's
is
like you're on the
Freerun's.
journey with them.
Yeah, and the way they're able to bring in like the points and like her going back to towns and locations
Hmm.
that they visited on the hero's journey and everything was amazing, and like
Hmm.
seeing how they brought those things back in there and seeing how the party acted, and
Hmm.
the way Hyder like fooled Freeran into
Yeah.
sticking around, and essentially training Fern and becoming attached to Fern. I
Yeah.
thought that was hilarious. And her whole like thing that, he's um
A corrupt priest.
a corrupt priest and everything. Oh my god. The comedy, the humor, the action, the way
Hmm.
everything is a perfect blend in this show.
Yes,
Like if you're looking for action, I think when it really cooks, it cooks well.
for sure.
But I feel like there's times when it heats up, and
Hmm.
then you get a palate cleanser for a little bit,
Yeah.
and then it heats up again. That way you're not just eating candy, because I feel
Right.
like a lot of anime, and that I think that's why Freeman won, best anime in several other categories this
Right.
past year, because it was so different. And I'm sure the manga, I want to check it out and see what it's all about and everything. But dude, this show was just fantastic. Like after every episode, I was like, man, and a lot of the episodes, especially earlier on, they were broken up into two halves.
Hmm.
and that was very interesting where you're getting kind of like smaller, adventures in each one of them.
Right.
And I think one of my favorite parts was when they get the priest on their crew, but like he's like, oh yeah, I'm really into older women, and then Freeren's like,
oh yeah, Sane, yeah.
yeah, and she's like, well, I've been saving this, and then she does like the whoo, like like that was so funny. And just her way of like thinking and her journey beyond the original, her journey of like not connecting with anybody, not caring, just being very distant.
Right.
And when Himmel
Himmel,
died,
it hits her. She's like,
it
what
hits
do I
her.
really know about her? What do I really know about him or
Yeah.
any of you? So, and I think, and you kind of alluded to it here a moment ago, it's like the way she teaches, because she told Heiner, it's like, I'm not a teacher. Like, I don't want to teach. And whether she wanted to, like, I think it was more of like her just not wanting to do it, whether she thought she'd be a good teacher or
Yeah.
not. Like, because we see like her teacher would teach her like the fun of magic, not just
Yeah.
like the practicality, which we learned like the ultimate mage of that world essentially wants magic for a weapon rather than just to create flower fields or whatnot. So I
Mm-hmm.
think she didn't want that to be when she thinks of teachers, she's thinking of people to defend themselves, to attack. Like she doesn't want to do that. And whether she thinks she's not a good teacher or she doesn't want to is irrelevant. Like, that'll get answered down the road. But you know, like the if she eventually does become a teacher, like working with Fern, like and even acknowledging Fern, you see things better than I do. Your casting is a lot faster than mine. But even just bringing the knowledge of the world, like telling Fern, like when she was teaching, is like, look, I'm not going to teach you really intricate spells because the mages of this era can only be defeated with will be it only will take basic magic to defeat them. Like they are not what I faced. They are not like what the geniuses of the old world were
Mm-hmm.
like. Like you don't need to use these vast, intricate, super layered spells. All you gotta do is just use Zoltric, like and
Yeah.
basic defense spells and outcast them, and basically you'll win. And to see that play out is like holy cow. And then like her not like the way she approached like the first part of the mage exam, like when they're in the teams to catch those birds, like it's like, okay, let's do this, let's go about it this way. And then the whole time studying the barrier and like simultaneously, and then like, all right, I can take it down now. And to basically create a diversion to scare away all the other birds. I'm like, bro, genius.
Well, and like freezing the lake and everything, but like dispelling the barrier so one of her teammates would be on an even playing field with everybody
Yes,
else because
that
she has
too.
water magic. And that was the whole reason she was like, I've got to help my team be able to progress and everything. And just her, like the way the voice acting was amazing in the show from everybody.
Hmm.
I think, like learning Stark's story, Fern's
Yes.
story, like everybody had these like it just wasn't a one note thing in free
No.
run. Like it was just like a tapestry just woven really well and a lot of care and a lot of forethought because we do get to see the hero's party, Himmel's party, like through these flashbacks. Like
Right.
when they're talking about like exploring dungeons, it's like Himmel loved dungeons. He
Yep.
loved just like those little bitty things. And Amy brings up a good point. Himmel was definitely in love with Freerin.
Right. So, and I wanted to allude to that too, really, really quick. Like it was like it hinted at it early on, but then the more flashbacks you're getting, the more it's like the proposal to Freerin,
Hmm.
essentially. Like you could definitely tell he fell for Freerin and or saw something special in the beginning because he's the one who convinced her to go on this journey
Yep.
with them in the beginning. And you could chalk that up to just like, oh, Himmel has the charisma because he could just bring out the best in everyone or just get everyone
Some
to
would say
like
the
them.
Riz.
No. Let that die. But no, like, and then eh, um, the question I posed to you is like, do you think now? Obviously, yes. Freerin never got to really know Himmel, and that's the whole crux
Yeah.
of why she went on this journey. She's on the journey she is now,
Hmm.
and wanting to get to know people better. But do you think, because she alludes to it, like she's like, when they talk about other elven kind, it's like we're all but extinct. We don't pretty much procreate for, we don't pretty much have like a mating desire type thing.
Hmm.
We're more about learning and exploring all this kind of, like, we're fascinated by other things rather than keeping our race alive.
Yeah.
So with that in tune, do you think Freerin ever reciprocated those feelings, despite the fact that she never really got to know Himmel and that she regrets that now that he's dead? Like, yes, Himmel, like, yes, we see like Freerin smiles, like basically like she was always happy around Himmel, but do you think she ever had like a romantic interest in Himmel? Because, or was it always one-sided, do you think?
I feel like it's one sided. Maybe now she's seeing that and it's like, oh, there
Well,
was something there.
especially at the end where she says, it'd be embarrassing if when I come
Yeah.
back, you know what I mean, for the long goodbyes.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think she really thinks that way. Like like as much as it goes, it's like as a friend.
Yeah,
Um, because again, she's not really compelled like to do that. Like
yeah.
she doesn't really have that
I think she had an
mentality.
appreciation for what Himmel did, like basically brought her out of her shell and had
Yeah.
her, like, the appreciation to see the world, to explore her powers, to just how to interact with people, treat people. I think her ability to grow as a person, I think she appreciates
Yeah.
more than it was a romantic interest.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's like said, I think it was one sided with Himmel. And you see like how much he had an effect on her. Like
Yeah.
everything that she's doing is because of somebody in the party. The way she thinks, the way she goes about different things, even the way she fights now.
Yeah.
Because Himmel would get on to her about being too flashy or going too
Right.
overboard. And that's when she started using simpler spells. Like
Hmm.
you only see her really crank it once in the show, and when she
Yeah.
does, my god, it's amazing looking.
Yeah.
And I just I kind of want to, just if you haven't watched the show, we haven't really given anything away. You need to go watch it. This is an amazing show. If you are as Derek likes to call people, mouth breathers, um you will still enjoy this show. It might be a little bit slower, but
Hmm.
compared to like we watched Chainsaw Man last month,
Yeah.
and this is like 10 times better than Chainsaw Man, in my opinion, because the whole entire show, this first
Hmm.
season, has a direction, has a purpose, and you get action, you get character development. And a lot of shows these days, it's just a lot of flashy stuff, and you get a
Hmm.
little bit of character development. But this is like, if you like God of War,
Yeah.
and like, I feel like this is
The Norse duology.
the Norse duology. Like, I feel like it's kind of it's a little bit more methodical, but it
Right.
hits pretty hard. Like
Correct.
those conversations in the boat, that's what I feel like a lot of this was. It was like those
Yeah.
conversations where when you get out of the boat in God of War, you're just like, man, or off the sled, you're like, that's going to be with me for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
But
and just one other thing I want to talk about too is like the third part, or yeah, the second part of the mage exam. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Like when they're in that dungeon, and uh, uh, Icon or Dirt,
Daikin,
what? Yeah, Icon. Yeah, he
Daikin.
Dyken. Excuse me. Yeah. When they're at the end, and then they're going against these entities, that are created for the
Mhm,
dungeon, and then they show us like, oh crap. How are the, like, this is like, it was such a great, like, when they're coming up with the plot plan too, it's like Dyken got what he wanted to, because he's like, he knew, given the parameters of the exam, he's like, guys, we're not in opposing sides. We should all be able to finish this. Let's all work together. And everyone's just so broken up about from the team aspect in the first exam, that they're just like, we'll tough it out on our own. We got through it the last time. Might as well keep going. And then see that Dyken gets what he wanted, and then Freerin and Fern coming up with the plan, and her looking at Fern is like, yeah, you're gonna have to be the crux to this, or like be the focal point of this strategy. And it's like, oh, So we get to see essentially the weakness of this person, you know what I mean, or like their shortcomings, because up until that point they almost seemed unbeatable to an extent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so and then to wrap it all up, like the third mage exam and like the all being mage of that world is like, yeah, too many pass because of Freerin. So I'm gonna weed these out because first class mages should be, it shouldn't be a free for all. It should, the whole
Hmm.
plot, which again, like, yes, in that time, that position should be sacred, but also it's like maybe, and some of them probably shouldn't be deserved to be first class mages, but then she went and promoted half of them
Yeah.
essentially, and then like the whole dynamic between her and Freerin because they have history together. And Freerin knew that she wouldn't pass, and then but it's like, all right, but you can't say no to this person because of their potential. And she's just like, yeah, I can't really do that. Like she you see she wants to so bad. She's like, I want to fail you, but your potential is too good to pass up. So Freeman was right, unfortunately. So it
Yeah.
like seeing that even in a conversation like the chess game being played by Freeman is just so good in a what you alluded to. It's like it's good storytelling.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that even goes back to Flama, um, Freeren's master,
Yeah.
like the relationship, like from the get go, like this character, we won't name their names, like having, kind of a conflict with Freeman and everything. So
Yeah.
it definitely makes it an interesting dynamic when they come into the story and everything. And I love the relationship. Amy brings this up. It's like the bond she had with the original hero group was over 10 years as well. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time there. Other than her mentor, I don't think she spent much time with other people. And you see that
Correct.
like after her mentor is gone, she literally just lives in the woods by herself,
Correct.
and that's all she does. And then she spends 10 years, which 10 years is like
A drop in the
maybe,
bucket.
yeah, maybe like 2 months to her,
Yeah.
essentially, because she's almost 1,000 years old in this show.
No, I think she's over 1,000 because in her fight with Guillotine, she says, "I'm a mage who's lived for over 1,000 years."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, about 1,000 could be
Yeah.
over as well. But yeah, dude, if y'all are looking for an anime that is different,
Hmm.
that fits a lot of different genres,
Yeah.
this one does it really well. It feels like D&D. It's a little bit slower in some places, but when the fights
Yeah.
get going, oh man, like the fights with our guillotines, like minions or whatever, like in the castle, dude.
Oh yeah. That was, oh my god, like it's like that was a chance for Fern and
Stark.
what's Stark to really show the showcase, and even really we saw Stark showcase his powers like when they're fighting the dragon,
Yep.
like and whether Freeman took a guess or just knew is to be interpreted, I guess. Like I think it leans more towards she knew, but
Hmm.
she just needed to give him that oomph to believe in himself when they're fighting the dragon. She's like, all right, you need to buy me this much time. And he's doing it. And then he's like, now do it. It's like, I don't need to. And he's like, what? He's like, you already killed it. And he looks like, oh,
Yeah.
oh. So it's like she knew, or presumably you would think she knew he already had the power to slay the dragon in him. He just needed the confidence.
Yeah. And Starks, Ferns, Freeran, like I love that those three like do get like, I feel like Starks, like his character development was really interesting, like having to when they met that other noble and having to
Yes. Oh yeah,
pretend and
like
all.
yeah. That one was an interesting story to tell as well.
And you start seeing the connection between Mistress Fern and Mr. Stark. Like
There are so many times toward the second half of the season, like just kiss already. I think even Sane said that. He's like,
yeah.
would those two just go out already?
Yeah, exactly. But like in the exam part of it, like you got to see the other characters around them
Mm-hmm.
develop. And
Yes.
I thought that was really cool to see like the world expand in that moment where it's been very small and focused on this little group. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we need to tell the story around them because that's going to impact everything. Like why Daikin wants to become a first class mage, and you start slowly piecing it together, and
Mm-hmm.
then why he's like looking after um the younger mage. He's like literally treating her as his granddaughter,
Yep.
like all of these different things. It just this is amazing. I know we keep going on.
I
uh
know.
Amy said just kiss already. I was the same, Derek. Maybe season 2, because we're getting another
Yep.
season,
Yep.
and I'm
They officially greenlit. Well, it was greenlit after the season, but they officially gave it a release window. It will be the winter. We have to wait till next year, but it'll be the beginning of next year. It'll be part of the winter anime lineup in January.
I can't wait. I
I
can't
know.
wait. So that brings us to our April Eat Sleep Anime Community Show. Will be
Mhm.
Hell's Paradise. I
Woo-hoo. Oh, okay.
started watching it, and very interesting.
Okay.
So it essentially is this ninja that gets caught, and they're trying to execute him, and he's like, I don't want to even be alive. And then turns out, and then he has to go on this big mission.
Ah, okay.
So
Zach says it's our April show with 8 days left in March. I'm like, I'm gonna start it. Why not?
you know, I was like, all right, let's just see what it is. And the first episode, very interesting. So cannot wait for that. So Hell's Paradise will be our April show. So go ahead and if you haven't already, join our Fable group. I'm going to put the link in the chat for everybody. This is totally free. You can go,
Mhm.
and what I love about it is you go through each episode. Like literally after we watch the every episode, Amy and I would just stop the show and then write our thoughts in there. So I literally have all my thoughts, Derek, of
Okay.
free run from each episode already in this app, like first class mage exam. Let's see what I said. The two girls that with free run have an interesting dynamic. I'm concerned for Fern though, with that killer mage in her party.
Whew. Boy, I'm telling you, like I was waiting for the betrayal. Yeah.
Same, but the way they stipulate it, where it's like everybody has to survive. Yeah, so good, guys. So Hell's Paradise is going to be our next show. Join the Fable group. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be chatting about it. It's going to be great. So it's time, Derek. We're going to the Kage
Yeah.
Summit. And this episode's Kage Summit is the future of anime.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of alluded to a little bit of it, but when we look at anime, we've started with like Dragon Ball Z, like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like was really like when
The
anime's,
grandfather.
yeah, the grandfather. And then we've had the big three, and then we've had the rise like of Attack on Titan, and
Mm-hmm.
then you know My
That spawned
Hero.
the next big, the next
Yeah.
big, like at certain different points, before like a Demon Slayer or a JJK, everyone wanted to have a different big three. Like up until, like Morph came out, like Attack on Titan was part of the big three. I know My Hero has been like the staple, kind of like Naruto has always been, like the staple when you talk about the big three. But then like it was rotating, like Black Clover was in there, other stuff, but then like Demon Slayer took a hold, and now JJK is taking a hold. So there's always that grandfather and then like the children, you know what I mean, or like the grandchildren of like the big anime. So like again, like you alluded to, not the rise of Dragon Ball Z, and of course there was other stuff, like I know like in the 90s, like we had Rurouni Kenshin, Yu Yu Hakusho, Cowboy Bebop. But like when you talk about like the iconic ones, you always think about Dragon Ball Z as like the hover over, and like the umbrella under that was Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. Now One
Hmm.
Piece is now they've all come back, are still going in some shape, form, or fashion. Like say what you want about the show, but Boruto is still in the Naruto universe, so it's still going. Bleach has come back with the Thousand-Year Blood War, and One Piece is the show that'll never end. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um, It's like the meme I sent you. It's like from Endgame, or no, from Infinity War. It's like I saw 450 hours worth of anime, and then it's like, how many anime? One.
Yeah.
And it was One Piece. Um, and now like you see Attack on Titan because it came out in 2013. You could say that was
Hmm.
like the next generation of the start of the next wave of like how anime is to be portrayed. Because yes, while Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, and Dragon Ball Z all had their serious moments, like yes, there were
Hmm.
character deaths. Like Attack on Titan pushed the envelope where it's like, hey, these characters that you've grown attached to, some shorter than others, they're not going to last long. Like there was always that impactful death in each of the first four
Yeah.
shows, but like it never was on a level of like, all right, most of the characters that you know and love are going to die at the end, or like mostly die by the end, by the time the show ends. Um, Whereas Attack on Titan flip side's like, yeah, I'm going to break the mold, and all these characters that you have come to know, they may not die right away, but they're going to die. Like even like one character that I thought, I'm not going to get into it. Like I'm not going to, because I want to save these thoughts for when we do stuff later down the road. In season 4, part 1, like the character that I'm thinking, all right, they've made it this far,
Yep.
it's not going to happen, and then it like boom, right there. I'm like, what? That, and like stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's like no one is safe. Like,
Yeah.
so and now it's spawned off JJK, Demon Slayer, and My Hero, where My Hero doesn't do like a lot of like the death stuff. Like JJK is more akin to that, where like especially in season 2, like
Yeah.
JJK probably has the quickest turnaround of like, hey, we're gonna build up all these cast of characters, and now half of them are gone by
Yeah.
before season 2 even ends. Demon Slayer kind of does it, but it's more like death of just initial casts that show up. It's not really the death like, obviously with the Infinity Castle arc, that's probably going to change. So but that's a wait and see. But and now we're hitting this next wave, or like this next generation of anime, where we're having the uniqueness of it. You have the isekais that are different, like that time I got reincarnated as a slime. And now we're like I said, we have the manhwa stuff coming in, where like they're bringing Korean and other stuff, because it's like, hey, there's other stories and other unique stuff to tell. Why
Hmm.
should we just limit it to just what Japan is writing? Like we've got all these amazing different Asian talent writing great stuff. Like let's give them a shot. And now Solo Leveling was a perfect first one, like first dip in the pool.
Yeah.
And now like I haven't seen any of season 2, but just based off of season 1, like how that went from like, it literally hit the ground running in episode 1, and it didn't ever let up off the gas. And from all the previews and the initial reactions to season 2 that I've been seeing, it hasn't slowed down. It's only gotten faster.
Yeah.
um and to that fact, again, like what does it spawn off? Like I know Sakamoto Days was like another big one that is like really hitting the ground running. There's another one that's not in anime development yet. Gachiakuta is supposed to be a big one. What was the one we were talking about the other night?
Like Kurabacha or something.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Kagurabachi.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Kagurabachi is supposed to be a huge one, and like it only took like a couple chapters in, and basically everyone was like, "All right, we're gonna greenlit this for an anime." It's like, all right, that's a fast turnaround. So the future of anime is just getting brighter and brighter. Like obviously, yes, we've hit a golden age of anime essentially. Like I think that started like not necessarily in 2013. I feel like it was getting more mainstream by that time Attack on Titan hit. But now
Hmm.
since like 2019, you can say like when My Hero really took off, Demon Slayer appeared, that kind of stuff. I think that we're in the golden age of anime now,
Yeah.
where like it's just like, and obviously yes, there's all the memes like, oh man, back in the day we used to get made fun of for watching this. Now everyone wants to ride the wave, like
Hmm.
a group called RDC World. It's like, oh, now we want, and everyone wants to ride the wave, and now it's all cool. You know what I mean? It's like where's the respect for the old
Yeah.
school stuff? Um, and it's but that's fine with me, because it's like more people, like you get to talk with more people about what you love. Like it's one of those things like what video games used to be back in the day, and it still is. But when the height of video games was at it, like everyone would talk about it. It's like there was like those water cooler moments. Now I think that's what anime is, and I think for better or for worse, when everyone was cooped up in their houses during COVID, I think, like, other than binging games, they were binging TV shows and anime. Like, they were thinking, like,
Oh
oh, what
yeah.
have I been missing on? So I think that has spurred this boon of like just greenlighting a bunch of stuff. Like, it's like, oh, this people enjoy this now. Let's give this a shot.
Yeah. To Nate's point before I get into mine, it's a good age. The storytelling has gotten so good. I've petered out on One Piece because of the old animation and storytelling style. And I think, one thing that I love about the newer kind of anime is that there's not a lot of filler.
Correct.
Anything that's come out after like 2019, I feel like is like way less filler.
Yeah.
You're getting like 12 really solid episodes. And I feel like the, next wave of anime, what it's going to look like is better storytelling overall. Because that has been constantly what we've been seeing is like the stories are not just like, okay, we're setting up for this next fight. We both love Dragon Ball Z. We love Dragon Ball Super. We like Akira Toriyama is like one of our favorite people that has ever lived.
He's the
But
godfather, essentially, of manga.
exactly. But the one thing that I love about newer anime is the stories of Vinland Saga. My God, the first 2 seasons of Vinland Saga, you get this amazing story of this kid losing his father, dealing with that grief in a very unhealthy way, and how it just really twisted him up into this angry person looking for revenge.
Yep.
And
A one-note protagonist.
A one-note protagonist, but the action was amazing. All of this was good, but the second season, you see healing. You see it's way slower. It's a very different kind of story.
I have
And
no enemies.
yeah, and dude, it was so good. By the time you hit the end of season 2, you're like, man, I have no enemy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you start
exactly.
thinking like that in that, and it's like that's maturity in storytelling. And you look at like regular TV shows, we used to just get, oh, if they wore a black hat, they're a bad guy. If they have a white hat, they're a good guy. It was very just kind of binary. And now I feel like there's so many nuances within the story. It's like just because they're a villain doesn't mean they don't have a motive or a reason or what twisted them. Like, I feel like anime's done that really well for a long time. But it's like, well, are they really the bad guy?
Yeah.
Like, you start thinking about that. And I think just like the next wave of anime is going to look very diverse in that side of things. It's like, it's not just the fighting, the battle anime and everything.
Well, and that's pretty much like, to go back a little ways too. Like, you said, like, storytelling has gotten better. I mean, vastly. I mean, Full Metal Alchemist. It started with Full Metal Alchemist, like that. You could kind of say that's like the turn of making story more of the focal point rather than just the action. Because yes, like the grand four, if you as if you want to call it that, of Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, they were the ones that made anime. Like, they were the ones, like, yes, they didn't have amazing, mind-blowing stories, at least consistently through. Like, they all had their moments, like, where it was like, oh wow, like, I didn't expect this to happen. Like, oh wow, I can't believe this character got murked, that kind of thing. But really, it really set the tone and made it more of a contender, because like, people were just like, oh, it's just Japanese cartoons. Is like, and people still make that argument. And then, like, I see all the retaliations, like, all right, does it teach you life lessons? Like, what do regular cartoons do? Do they teach you life lessons? Not really. They teach you the base knowledge. They don't go deep into it. They don't have an in-depth thing like that, but it was carried by the action. Like, all these action set pieces was what got people's attentions. Like, oh, it's not just like Looney Tunes, like, where they draw, like, he gets run over by a train and then, like, he's back up. It's like, no, when these people get put down, they generally stay down. You know what I mean? Like, just the shock value and the action that they brought for the time period. Like, back when it's like, oh, let's not be too violent now. But now it's like, yes, there's the action, But now, like, and then we talked about it with Free Rent. You know, it has the action, and when it does, it's impactful. But
Yeah.
it's the storytelling that brings it to that point, and it's like, you know, again, like you said, the storytelling has gotten so much better, and I think now they're getting to where like the story is spreading, like it has a long form. Essentially, it's not just the plot of that season. It's like, all right, what is the ramifications for this down the road?
Yeah, and on the other side of that, I think that comedy within anime is
Yes.
become a huge staple. Freerun, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Kaiju number 8,
Yes.
One Punch Man, Mashley, like all of
Oh,
these
Mashley for sure.
Spy Family, Sakamoto
Yes.
Days, all of them use comedy in a very interesting way to help humanize but also push the plot forward and
Mm-hmm.
endear you to these characters, because one of the things that I look for now is like some comedic element in a show. Like
Mm-hmm.
if Sakamoto Days didn't have the comedy within that show, Amy
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't watch it with me because it would
Right.
be just fighting, it would be just
Mm-hmm.
gore or whatever. Spy Family, if it didn't have the comedy, it would just be kind of a one note show where it's like, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Jones essentially as an anime,
Yeah.
but because they have that comedic element, it helps either up the tension at times
Mhm.
or take away from some of the more serious side of things. So I
Yeah.
feel like storytelling is huge, but we're also going to see a lot more comedy
Yeah, I think
within
so.
just normal anime.
Well, and I think too, like, and it's not just like, of course, you know, there's like the situational comedy, but also, you know, if they're following the manga too, that I think is going to be more in the manga writers as well, because it's like, all right, let's have this nice blend where it's not forced, but it's like I always appreciate the situational humor of certain things, like even when it's not trying to be funny, it's like just the ironicness of the scene that plays out. But like you said, like I think Spy Family is a perfect example of bringing comedy, because I mean, if it wasn't for Anya in that show, like I don't know if the show would be the same. Like it's
True.
because Anya brings such a different dynamic. It's like Seki Sun, like just her mannerisms and her reactions to how things, like how she misinterprets how the real world, how the adult world works. You know, it's just so divine, essentially. And
The way Yor acts as well, it's
yeah,
like she's this, assassin, but like she sucks at cooking and
right. She's like,
she's trying really hard to be
believe
a
me,
good wife. You know what I
I know.
mean?
So
Like season 2 where she gets shot in the butt
yes.
and she's like, I can't sit down, and like she's mad like all the time, and like Lloyd is like, what's going on? Why is she mad at me?
What did I say?
Like that kind of stuff just really like helps the story overall.
Mhm.
And to one point is Solo Leveling, like the manhwa has a lot more comedy in it than what we're getting in the show.
Okay.
Now the English dub, like they're trying to bring in a little bit more of that
Right.
than what the Japanese dub is
Well,
doing,
well,
because
and if you also have TikTok, you know, there's Solo Leveling Abridged, which has a whole different comedic value to it. But I'm not going to go
true,
there.
true. But like it's Alex Lee, right? That's the voice
Yeah,
actor
Alex
of,
Lee is the main voice actor. Yeah.
like you can tell that he loves the character and the source material,
Mhm.
because like he'll talk about the light novels. He's like, well, in the light novels they do this, in the manhwa it does this, and and then you look at the Japanese dub, they're doing this, and it's like, well, we want to bring in this kind of feel from the manhwa, because Genu, he has a funny side to him, and then
Yeah.
the different Shadow Army characters like have their own personality, especially like the
Oh.
higher up ones. And there's some really comedic moments in the manhwa that they've kind of watered down in the show, but in the anime, like the dub version, the English dub, they're trying
Hmm.
to bring some of that back, which I really like.
Yeah.
Amy says the humor of anime just makes it more relatable and balanced, in my opinion.
True.
Yeah, and it's like you don't want it to feel just like, you killed my brother, now I must kill you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you don't want it to
Tiger
feel like,
Mask.
Oh my God, Tiger Mask, guys, do not watch it. It is not good. Um, Nate says Full Metal Alchemist and Attack on Titan are peak storytelling, and
Facts.
I agree 1,000%, and I feel like we are getting more of that because like the way Kaiju number 8 handles action and comedy again
Mhm.
is so good, but the storyline and the depth that is going on there just in one season, I was just like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I can't get enough of what is happening here.
Mhm.
So
So
any other things you want to add to what the future of anime might look like, Derek?
no, I'm about to say other than that, anime's gonna keep be like it's you heard me say it at certain points. It's like anime is great. Anime is going to continue to be great. It's the reason why, like, yes, like just to kind of cross streams here, like when you go to regular TV shows, like yes, you've had the peak like Breaking Bad. I know Peaky Blinders was really good. Just whatever other like Dexter. Like just name whatever top TV shows were back big, over the last like 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never enticed me to like when I've watched a Breaking Bad, it never entices me to want to watch like other stuff that is in that same genre of Breaking Bad. It's like
True.
because nothing can compare to what Breaking Bad did. Whereas anime, it's so unique and different, and there's so many different storytelling. Like for me, the thing is the voice acting, right?
Mm,
I watch pretty much English dub 100% of the time, unless like you can only watch it in sub. And the voice acting is done like I recognize so many voice actors. Like I look up, I make it a point to look it up, and if I know they're in there, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give this a shot because I like what they do. I like how they do use their technique to bring a character life. So it's like, let me at least give this a shot, even if I end up not liking it as much.
yeah.
Because there's really only one anime I've never really even messed with, and that was more of what the story turned into rather than like the performances in that show. Um,
I'm curious what it is now.
Gungrave. It's an old one. It was based, I
Mm,
forget if it was based on a video game or the video game's based on the anime. I don't know, but it was an
gotcha.
intriguing plot. Like it could have been a good mafia one, and then it turned into like, all right, now we're gonna create immortal zombies or like beings. And I'm like, all right, now you lost me. Thank God it was only 26 episodes. Otherwise, I would have given up a long time ago.
Mm,
But there's only one anime that never really vibed, but all the rest is like, okay, it was good, or if it was like, it served its purpose, but
yeah.
anime is the only medium that I will give anything a shot. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
because of the different, like we've talked about this whole segment, is the different styles, the different storytelling, the different action, like just in general, like the different voice performances, like just in general, like anime is one of those mediums where like, yeah, and yes, there are still people out there who's like, oh, I'm only going to watch certain ones. And that's
Mm,
maybe because of time. Maybe that's because of their interest. Like for me, I owe it to the people that like especially nowadays that are going out of their way to make anime such big mainstream. So the one's like, all right, let me give this a shot because like you talk about hidden gems all the time, stuff that I missed growing up because I didn't have access to streaming services or it was hard to find and I didn't want to look up YouTube to find like search different videos to find part one and then part
yeah.
two, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um so it's just great. You know what I mean? Like you owe it to yourself to at least give the right anime a shot.
1,000%, Derek, because it's only going to keep getting more diverse and more interesting. Sports anime, fighting anime, Megalobox.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing. Like I watch like just to you like different genres too, like in anime, like
Mm-hmm.
sports. Like when people said, "Oh, there's sports anime," I'm like, all right. It doesn't have like a football anime, like American football anime
Yeah. Yeah.
that I know of. And it's like, oh, but you should try it. Like if you had told me, oh, you're gonna watch an anime that's about like a scrub rugby team trying to improve and get better, I'm like, you're crazy. I care nothing for rugby, and I gave it a shot, and I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Like, I would have. I will never watch rugby in real life, but I will watch an anime about rugby.
Well, Derek, I just looked up. There
Mhm.
is an American football anime.
Really?
It's called Eye Shield 21. And it's from
What?
2005.
Wow. Okay. If it's like Tiger Mask, it may not be that good.
Has a 7.6 on IMDb, so not
Okay.
bad.
Okay. I have to look that up. That's interesting.
The one sentence synopsis is the story of an introverted boy who reluctantly joins an American football team.
Roll Tide.
And their uniforms are red and have white.
Oh, that's so God. That's so. I guess I just took a shot in the dark. That's crazy.
Nate says, I haven't given any sports anime a chance. They seem kind of meh to me, but who knows? I know a lot of people love Blue Lock. A lot of people love
Kuroko's Basket.
yeah, and then the Haikyuu and all of that. The best one that I've watched, Megalobox.
Yes, that is such an underrated one that does not give the love it deserves. I feel like
it
got a second season, but it was like 5 years after the first season.
Yeah, and the second season is still good, but it feels a lot different than season one.
Yeah.
Season one is definitely the best, but it does.
Season one feels grittier.
Yeah, but season two is still worth watching if you really love season one. But if you like boxing, you need to go watch that. Do not watch Tiger Mask.
No,
it is not. It is not worth it.
I will go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and like also another one, like apparently, like just from the clip that we said, like I watched and then you sent me, well, of Kuroko's Basket, like that one, like a fan made episode. I'm just like, all right, I definitely want to try and give this a shot now.
Yeah,
pun intended.
Oh. Well, let's jump into the upcoming anime for spring 2025. There's a lot of cool stuff that's coming out. So, Derek, why don't you run us through this?
So, the spring anime lineup will start in April for a lot of shows. So, first off, and we got some, like, at least for me, we got a pretty stacked show. Like, a lot of stuff is coming back, like the return of One Piece. One Piece went on a hiatus for a little bit because the anime caught up with the manga. So it's like, all right, let's get this a little bit ahead so we can give this give this a break so we're not creating another line of filler to bore our fans. So starting off on April 4th, Fire Force Season 3. I have been waiting for this one. It is a great action show. It is not muddled down, but it does, like, some of the adult stuff in there does take a little bit away from the show. But like, if you're looking for action and like the sound effects during the fight scenes, freaking top tier in that aspect. So I love the first two seasons. I have been waiting for them to officially announce a season 3, and it is only a few short weeks away. It will be split into, I think, 2 different cores. The first part will be airing this year, and then the second one won't be airing until I think January of next year. So it will be a long gap, but I can't believe we are about to embark on this this last chapter of this intriguing show. Following that, Zach, we got something that's up in our wheelhouse because we saw the first trailer for that a while ago, and that is the spinoff to My Hero Academia Vigilantes. And let me tell you, when we watched that teaser trailer for it, we were definitely hyped. We were definitely intrigued, but we can't wait to see what this show will bring. If it is anything like some of these other spinoff shows that we've seen from other anime, if it even gets close to what's like if Super was anything close to Z, you know what I mean? Like, if it's anything along those lines, we'll enjoy it. And I know, Zach, you're a big proponent of the My Hero universe. I know you.
Oh, yeah.
When you first started, you were like plus ultra this, plus ultra that. Yeah. So I know you were excited to see more of that universe. That is airing on April 7th. Another one for me to look at that I look forward to an anime that I feel like doesn't get enough love that it deserves. Black Butler, the Emerald Witch arc, which is essentially season 5. Like, I've said this time and time again on different shows and different mediums. Like, I've said it on NerdCave News. This show, I feel like after you get through the muddledness of season 1 and then skip season 2 because it is all filler, and get to like when season 3 airs and they just focus on the actual source material, it really showcases what this show is. And I know season 4 was done so well that I can't wait to see how they handle this, because like the premise of this is like, for those of you who don't know, like say what you want to, the whole vampire versus werewolf debate, like werewolves always intrigued me more than vampires because vampires was overdone, and this kind of has from what I've been reading, it's like, oh, this is like a werewolf-esque type creature they're going to deal with, is the mystery of why they're going there. So it's already up my alley. This will air on April 5th. And then, like I alluded to earlier, One Piece will be returning on April 6th, continuing the latest the latest arc in the manga. The beginning after the end, which I've heard a lot of good things about as well, will be April 2nd. The Apothecary Diary season 2 will continue its second core, like it's been airing since January. It'll continue its run into the spring season, and that will start. I think it's this Friday, or it's already airing on Fridays anyway. I've been killing slimes for 300 years and maxed up my levels season 2. I know this one came out a couple years ago. I think it was during the COVID spike, maybe a little bit before that. So I know this has been a long awaited season 2 for some people. This has been, and it'll air on April 5th. Some other noteworthy ones. What was it? A Ninja and an Assassin Under One Roof, I've heard, is going to be an intriguing comedy coming out. Bye Bye Earth season 2. What else? Catch Me at the Ballpark. That sounds like an intriguing sports anime.
I love the keg on her back.
I know, it's like, so is this gonna be more of a like not condiments, but like, like a service girl, like that's bringing you snacks and beer while you're enjoying the ball game? Like, is that going to be from more of that perspective?
Apparently that's a real thing. I was watching something on like Japanese baseball. They literally have like the hot dog people or whatever, like they have like kegs on their back, and they're like walking around, and like instead of having to get up or whatever. But this one's apparently a bored office worker's life gets a rom-com curveball when a ballpark beer vendor won't leave his side.
Interesting. So that's going to be a different take. See, again, in a real life show, I would never care for this.
No.
But because it's an anime, like I would, even though it's not really about sports, it's more about the crowd side of it, I would still watch it. That is why anime is great. What else? I saw some other stuff. There was one other one.
Guilty Gear Strive is getting one.
Dual Rulers, yeah, I know. I've never really heard anything about the Guilty Gear anime. Like, of course, the fighting games have always been good, but I've never heard anything about the anime itself. So I'm not sure how people are receptive about that. Of course, I've talked about beginning after the end. The title of this one is intriguing. The Gorilla Gods Go-To Girl is going to air April 6th, and like her blessing, gorilla strength. Her curse, everyone wants it. A timid girl battles to reclaim her quiet life. That just seems like something that I would like. Again, it's another comedy. I feel like that just is going to be shenanigans are going to ensue, and it's just going to be a fun watch. To Be Hero X was another one. I was like To Be Hero X, I've heard intriguing things about. That is going to be airing on April 5th. Trust equals power. Heroes soar or crash by public faith. To be X means conquering humanity's fickle whims. So I'm intrigued. Oh, and yes, here's another one. I know you're not overly crazy about it, but I know it is. You did enjoy it when you watched it. Windbreaker season 2 will be airing on April 3rd. So I know between My Hero Vigilantes, this might be something like what you're doing, the Blue Exorcist. You might just watch while you're at the gym type thing.
Yeah.
Just to see, but I am intrigued by the show.
Season 1 was good. I'm looking forward to season 2 because they did at least set some things up. I just need a little bit more action in this. This is a fighting anime, essentially. So,
like, if you like Tokyo Revengers, you should give this a shot. I haven't watched it yet, but it's, again, like everything else, it's on my list. Witch Watch, I know I've heard some intriguing things about that as well. That's going to be airing on April 6th, and that's pretty much what you need to know, what you need to look forward to. So a lot of intriguing new titles, and some like returning ones that I'm in. Like I said, Fire Force, Black Butler, So like it's
One
going to be a
Piece.
good spring season.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when Solo Leveling is wrapping up.
It's going to be the end of the month. I think March 29th. Could be wrong
Okay,
about
so
that.
we get like one more episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we're getting, if you haven't already finished, or kept up with Solo Leveling, like,
Mhm.
you're going to be able to, I know
Binge it.
binge it and all of that, because dude, been loving it. But the spring lineup, it looks great. A lot of cool stuff coming out, and I know I'm going to be jumping into Black Butler. I've got the manga, and I'm going to start
Mm.
reading them and watching. So I'm really, I'm really looking forward to it. It does sound
Hit
pretty cool.
hit me up. Hit me up when you start it. That way I can give you the roadmap to get to the actual main points.
Oh, I definitely will, because I don't waste nobody should waste their time on filler. At least like Naruto filler.
Yeah.
Some of it is good, like it still has a pretty good storyline, but we don't have
and
time for that.
and I will say, as someone who watched season like the filler of Black Butler season 1 and watched all of season 2, it does like connect like the filler part in season 1 toward the end of the show does have a nice connection into season 2, but again, it's just like like you're gonna end it this way, like you're gonna like brother like I don't know about this, but when
Really?
they again when season 3 happened and they got back to the source material, I'm like, okay, now I vibe with you.
Well, guys, keep vibing with us, because we've got one last section for the evening. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe. The show is available on podcast services around the world. And if you want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/nerdcave and pick a tier that fits best for you. It helps us out, help keep the lights and the mics on. This is a 1.5 person business here. We do a lot of cool things, and we want to do more awesome anime topics, more anime videos. So you going to support us, it helps a lot. And if you don't have any bucks to toss, that's totally fine as well. Support us by liking and subscribing. The more you watch, the more you tell the YouTube algorithm that this stuff is good. So it helps us all out. So as always, it's time for the ramen toppings. And the question we're posing tonight, we want to hear your thoughts as well. Who will end their anime better, My Hero Academia or Demon Slayer?
And full disclosure, like we've gotten like at least launch windows for both of them this year. Like the final
Mhm.
parts are airing this year. We know like Demon Slayer is doing 3 different movies, and the first one, like it's airing in July in Japan, but it won't hit the States till September worldwide. So obviously we won't get the full, like I doubt they're gonna just do like boom boom bam like July, October, November, or what have you, like wrap up all 3 movies. I feel like they want to really dig into the cinematic event that they're doing for Demon Slayer, really draw it out. So
Yeah.
obviously we won't get the final conclusion this year, but My Hero, I believe, is airing in, I want to say October this year. So I want to say it's going to be late. So obviously if it goes 20 plus episodes, it won't end. It'll end sometime next year, but still, like they're both starting this year. Like it's both 2 series that that we both highly enjoy. I know Zach, you're very high on like like Chris Sabat as All Might,
Yep.
like in just that whole storytelling there, and then like Demon Slayer, just the action sequences and like the moments that happen in that show. So what do you think? I'm gonna kick this off to you to start off with. What do you think when it doesn't matter when it ends, but because they're both starting the end, the beginning of the end for both of them is this year. What do you think when the dust settles? What do you think will have a more satisfying conclusion? And we're taking, obviously, full disclosure, we understand like My Hero has weird rabid fans that do weird things out there. We're not taking them into account
Yeah.
because they are basically dissociated from reality. So we're talking about the actual level-headed normal fans that
Not the mouth breathers, Derek.
exactly correct.
I think, well, let's define this a little bit further. Who will end it better? Are you saying like bringing the manga to life, or like the story conclusion? Like what? Like Just so everybody's on the same playing field. Like, what are you thinking on that?
So, as someone who's never read the mangas like since high school, like of any
Yeah.
anime, um, I'm taking that out of effect because, like with books, like no one's ever going to be satisfied if they
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
the changes. But I feel I want to go with when the anime ends is like what serviced its story the best.
I feel like because, hmm, I feel spectacle wise, I feel like Demon Slayer is getting like way more funding for the movies. So
True.
spectacle wise, I feel like they're going to crush it in that
Correct.
regards. Because like you look at season one and then you look at the Mugen Train, like the animation style was like
Yeah.
a lot more funding in that. But that also limits how much time they can. It is 3 movies. So if that's
Yeah.
an hour and a half each, like yeah, they could cover everything. So,
There's been rumors that the first movie will be roughly almost 2 hours.
wow. Okay. So, I feel like in that regard, they're still going to be a little bit tighter than, doing a 24 episode run.
Hmm.
So, I do feel like they might have to cut some things from the manga to be able to focus on certain aspects of it.
Correct.
But spectacle wise, I think Demon Slayer is going to absolutely crush it. Not saying that the art and everything won't be amazing in My Hero, but just the budget wise,
Oh yeah. I mean,
that,
movie compared to a TV show.
yeah, exactly. Now, story wise, I think My Hero
Hmm.
has a potential to crush the story because having more time. That is always
Yes.
the nice thing about having a story like a TV show is like you're able to develop things
Hmm.
and the pacing within My Hero Academia with All for One and just like the tricks and the tons of different moves and all of that. I feel like you need that amount of time to get the fullness of the story.
Correct.
Um that's hard. It's hard to pick, but I feel like I'm going slightly Demon Slayer on this just because I feel like the story is going to be amazing, but the visuals are going to be just 10 notches
Next
above.
one. Right. For me, I'm kind of I'm kind of the same thought process as you, but I like again, like, and it's not just really the spectacle. It's like because like all the rumors of the different matchups we're gonna get like in the Infinity Castle,
Mhm.
for Demon Slayer. Like I feel like is I think the same rumor that said about how the length of the first movie also talked about the fights that we'll get. So I think like the spectacle, they focus on certain fights in there. I think it could be told really well. And I, like you said, I think the action, because Demon Slayer has a good story, but it's the action that kind of brings you there. Like you even
Yeah.
touched about it when we talked about season two, is that like the fight between Tengen and Gyotaro was like 3 panels, maybe, or like just it was like very minimum panels, and they took that and turned it into like a whole episode plus in the actual anime. So I feel like they are going to they're going to go into their bag. This is going to be the pace de resistance in terms of fight scenes. Like they're like you said, they're going to use this budget and make sure these fight scenes are not just flashy, amazing. They're going to be impactful. Like you're actually going to feel like them struggling in this fight, or like like giving not even struggling, just making sure like people they're fighting like are feel every bit of rage that they have for him in this show. But I also am of the same thought of like My Hero. I think when it's all said and done, like you go back to how it like the beginning of season one, like the intro, it's like this is how I became the world's number one hero. I feel like that journey will have a more satisfying conclusion,
Mm,
like, and not just saying that, oh, like, because I supposedly Demon Slayer's like I haven't spoiled anything for myself, but supposedly it's going to be very grim in this Infinity Castle arc for a lot of characters in the
yeah.
show. So I'm not even taking that into effect. Like that's I'm not going to chalk it up to just like a cheap terminology like shock value. But I
Yeah.
think like the story that that story that My Hero has serviced since season one and set the stage for, I think will live up to better expectations than than not. Whereas Demon Slayer, I think will end satisfyingly, and like I think they will will end it on a good note as well. But I think the action will overtake that final conclusion in the story, in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah, I could see that. Like, again, being more like a movie, like you've only got so much time, and being a show, you've got way more time to work with it. But there are a lot of story, like essentially like lines, little hooks or whatever that need to be
Right.
tidied up on both shows. But I do think I'm still going to give it Demon Slayer because, like, so far we haven't really seen that many deaths in My Hero,
Yeah.
but I feel like Demon Slayer, where the stakes are going to be pretty high, because when you look at My Hero, and I'm not going to give anything away, it's like there's been close calls, but there's never really been,
And one that we're left in suspense is like, well, what happened with this person?
yeah, well, there's two really, if you think about like,
Oh yeah,
uh,
the very end of the show. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like, okay, what's going to happen here? Like, I think they're going to be amazing. I just feel
Yes.
like Demon Slayer might be slightly more realistic, that not everybody is going to get to walk away.
True, and that's fair too. Um, and you bring up a good point. Is like, you know, it, I think at the end of the day, both will do its justice to each of
Oh
those
yeah,
stories. But it's just one of those things. It's like, what will be more palatable? Like what
mm,
what do you think people will be like more satisfied with? Obviously, yes, there's going to be characters that don't make it out in both shows.
yeah,
We don't- only time will tell who that is and what that entails. But again, I think because of that, like, not the fact is now, and of course you could say like during this final war in My Hero, we've already seen people that don't make it out, or have
yeah,
had really close calls, or have lost stuff that isn't their life. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
there has been losses on both sides, but I do think at the end of the day, in terms of like the biggest, like the heaviest loss, will I think involve Demon Slayer.
Yeah. Well, I might even change my answer. Like, thinking about season 7, like there was moments where I was literally like tearing up and starting to cry.
Oh yeah.
Like some of the, you know what I'm talking about. It
Oh
was
yeah.
literally, I think, the same episode during a certain battle where there was,
Yes.
like, oh man. So, but yeah, Nate says I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say Demon Slayer, since I'm heavy into it right now. And then he says, I think I've gotten to where I like grim storytelling. I think that's why I enjoyed Attack on Titan so much.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, and it's when it's more grounded in reality, where it's like, hey, no one is safe.
mhm,
I think that resonates more because it's like it brings it brings more that deeper connection with real world to me,
yep,
because it's like, oh, at any given moment, someone or love could, heaven forbid, die in a car crash. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And like, and the fact that this, like an Attack on Titan, the car crash is getting eaten by a Titan. Like anything like that could happen at any given moment, and you're given no warning, no heads up about it. It just boom happens. I
yeah,
agree, and that's like, and not to say it's anything wrong with stories that are like more fairy tale, like build up, like like a superhero type stuff, like My
mhm,
Hero, like, but My Hero is also grounded in reality to where they have losses as well.
yeah, definitely. And Nate, he says it does keep you on the edge more when you don't know what's going to happen, who's going to make it. Yeah.
Correct.
And just, moral of the story is, don't drink the wine that someone gives you for free.
Nothing in this world is free. There is no such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah. Well, everybody, there you have it. Thank you for watching Eat, Sleep, Anime. If you enjoy this kind of content, check out our other episodes, our reviews, and our reactions to the first episode of airing shows. We'll be back in June for another episode of Eat, Sleep, Anime. And again, you can support us over on patreon.com/nerdcave, and check out our Fable group, where we're going to be watching Hell's Paradise for April. This has been Zach.
And Derek.
Y'all have a blessed week. Bye bye.